Hello, students. Good morning to all of you. As you know, we have already started with our first chapter of new syllabus, that is rotational dynamics. Up till now, in three lectures, we have discussed about circular motion. Then we have seen uniform and non-uniform circular motion. After that, we have seen we have studied dynamics of circular motion. What are the dynamics? That is centripetal force and centrifugal force. We have seen the definition, formula, as well as some examples of centripetal and centrifugal force. Also, we have derived expression for centripetal acceleration, which is also known as radial acceleration or normal acceleration. After that, we have studied about the applications of circular motion. In that first application, it is related to vehicle on a horizontal road. In that, we have derived an expression for maximum safety speed of vehicle on a horizontal road. The second application, it is related to the wall of death. In that also we have derived an expression for maximum safety speed of vehicle in a wall of death. Okay. The third application, it is related to the vehicle on a banked road. Maximum safety speed of vehicle on a banked road. So in that topic, we have discussed what is banking of road, why it is necessary. Then we have derived an expression for angle of banking, right? The last and the fourth application of circular motion, it is related to the conical pendulum, in which we have derived an expression for period of conical pendulum as well as the frequency of that conical pendulum. Then after that, we have started with the rotational motion, that is moment of inertia. We have discussed about that. In that moment of inertia, in previous lecture, we have skipped some topic which will be covered in this lecture, in today's lecture. After that, we have derived an expression for kinetic energy of rotating rigid body. That is, rotational kinetic energy is nothing but half I omega square, or it is also known as half L omega. After that, we have derived an expression for moment of inertia of thin uniform ring, as well as we have obtained the derivation for moment of inertia of thin uniform disk. And the last topic we have seen in previous lecture, that is nothing but radius of gyration. We have seen the definition of radius of gyration, SI unit, dimension. Okay. Now in today's lecture, we have to discuss about theorem of parallel axis, theorem of perpendicular axis. Then we have to derive an expression for angular momentum, that is L. Then we will discuss about torque, that is moment of couple. Then conservation of angular momentum. And the last topic of this chapter is nothing but rolling motion of a body. The body rolls down on an inclined plane. So in that case, we have to obtain the total kinetic energy of that body when it is rolled down on an inclined plane. So what is moment of inertia? In previous lecture, we have seen that in translational motion, the mass of body is nothing but measure of inertia. Whereas in rotational motion, the quantity which measures the inertia of body, it is called as rotational inertia, or it is also known as moment of inertia. We have seen the definition of moment of inertia, that is nothing but what? It is the sum of product product of mass of each particle and the square of perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation. The moment of inertia, it is denoted by I, capital I. And that is nothing but summation. Here it is product mass into square of perpendicular distance, that is MI/RI square. And here there is a limit for I, that is 1 to n, because that rigid body, it consists of n number of small particles. Okay. So this formula, it indicates that there is a discrete distribution of particles. See, if that rigid body, it is considered to be made up of discrete distribution of particles, then only in that case we use this summation. Then what is discrete distribution? Over here I have shown two figures. What will be the difference in that two figure? You will find that in figure 1, the distribution of matter is not continuous. There is some empty, or you can say gap is there. But in figure 2, you will find that there is a continuous distribution of matter, right? So this is, in figure 1 we say that there is a discrete distribution of matter, whereas in figure 2 there is a continuous distribution of matter. So in discrete distribution, in case of discrete distribution of matter, we have to use what? Summation. That i's must be summation mir square. But in case of continuous distribution of matter, we can replace this summation by integration. See over here. So we say that the mass m, it is replaced by dm. But dm, it represents small part of mass of whole body. You have to consider that this body, it is made up of small particles. So that single mass of that single particle is nothing but dm. And the perpendicular distance of that particle from the axis of rotation is nothing but r. So square of perpendicular distance, that is r square. So we have to replace that summation by what? Integration. In case of integration, we use lower limit and upper limit because there is a continuous distribution, right? So I must be equal to integration r square dm. Okay. Now we will start with the first topic of this lecture, that is theorem of parallel axis, which is most important theorem. The moment of inertia of a body about any axis is equal to sum of its moment of inertia about parallel axis passing through center of mass and the product of its mass and the square of perpendicular distance between two parallel axes. Over here you will find that we have taken a rigid body which consists of large number of particles. So we know that from the center of mass, the axis of rotation which is passing through the center of mass and the moment of inertia about the axis which is passing through center, it is nothing but IC. We have taken another axis which is parallel to this axis which is passing through center, that is another axis which is passing through point O. So the moment of inertia about this axis is nothing but IO. And the perpendicular distance between that two axes, parallel axis, is nothing but H. So according to statement, if you will see, I have to find moment of inertia about this axis which is passing through point O. So IO must be equal to what? According to statement, there must be sum. That is sum. Sum of what? Moment of inertia about an axis which is passing through center, which is already known to us. So that's why it is equal to IC. Plus, there is a product. Product of what? Mass. Capital M is what? Total mass of this rigid body. And square of what? Perpendicular distance. So there is a H is what? Perpendicular distance between that two axes. So we have to take the square of that. So IO must be equal to IC plus MH square. So see the proof now. For that, we have to consider that rigid body whose mass is capital M, it is rotating about an axis which is passing through point O. And that axis, it must be perpendicular to the plane of that rigid body. Let IO is the moment of inertia about an axis passing through point O. IC, moment of inertia about an axis passing through center of mass. Here OC, that is equal to H, is nothing but what? Distance between the two parallel axes, that is perpendicular distance. Okay. Here OP. Now we have taken a small element of this rigid body, that is at point P, whose mass is dm. So this element dm which is at point P, it is at a distance r from the axis which is passing through point O. So that's why OP is the perpendicular distance of that element which is at point P. So and that is nothing but r. Similarly, we say that the perpendicular distance of that element dm, which is at point P from the axis which is passing through center, is nothing but r0, that is Cp. Now what we have to do? Take a small element of body of mass dm. We have taken over here a small element of mass dm, which is situated at point P. Now we have to join this OP and CP. Okay, so we have joined this OP as well as the distance OP is nothing but r smaller. Join CP, the distance CP is nothing but r0. Okay, now next join OP and CP. Then IO is must be equal to what? The perpendicular distance is now r. So already we have seen the we have seen the definition of moment of inertia. Here it is a continuous distribution of matter. So we say that it is a r square dm. So here distance is OP, so OP square dm, and that is nothing but r square dm. Also IC is nothing but what? Perpendicular distance is over here CP, so it is CP square dm, and the value of CP is nothing but r0, so it is r0 square dm. Now what we have to do? We have to extend this OC. OC we have to extend up to point D. And now we have to draw a perpendicular PD on this CD. So we will get this CD as a X. Now from this figure, we say that in triangle OPD, OP square, Pythagoras theorem we have to use. So OP square must be equal to what? OD square plus PD square. So OP square must be equal to we will substitute the value H plus CD square. Now OP square, OP is what? OP square is equal to OD, that is nothing but OC plus CD, right? So it is H plus X. So we say that it is H plus CD square plus PD square as it is. Now this we have to use over here the formula, that is A plus B bracket square. So it is H square plus 2HCD plus CD square plus PD square as it is. Over here you will find in this triangle CPD, you will find that here also we can use Pythagoras theorem. So CP square must be equal to what? CD square plus PD square. So over here we have got CD square plus PD square. So this combined term we will get what? CP square. So over here we have written CP square. So OP square is equal to what? CP square plus H square plus 2HCD. Now we will substitute all the values, that OP is nothing but R square, CP is nothing but R0, CD is nothing but X. So we will get R square is equal to R0 square plus H square plus 2HX. Now what we have to do over here? We have to multiply this equation by dm, and we have to take the integration on both sides. So we have taken the integration and multiplied by dm. So we will get integration r square dm is equal to integration r0 square dm plus integration h square dm plus integration 2hx dm. Now here integration, see over here h square is constant, so we have taken outside the integration. So h square integration dm. Also 2h is also constant, we have taken it outside the integration. Now here you will find that the variable and the integration term, it is different. So for that, if we consider that integration is on dm, that is on over the mass, so x will be constant in that case. So integration of constant must be 0. So integration x dm is 0. So h square integration dm, here integration dm will gives us total mass of that rigid body. So that is capital M. So by substituting all the term, we know that integration r square dm is nothing but IO, integration r0 square dm is IC, which we have already written. So we can substitute all the terms in this equation. We will get IO must be equal to IC plus MH square. And this is what? Theorem of parallel axis. The next theorem, that is about perpendicular axis, which is also important. So the moment of inertia of a plane lamina about an axis perpendicular to its plane is equal to sum of its moment of inertia about two mutually perpendicular axes concurrent with perpendicular axis and lying in the plane of laminar body. That is what? Iz equal to Ix plus Iy. So we have to consider over here a plane lamina whose mass is capital M. Let OX and OY be the nothing but two mutually perpendicular axes, OX, OY. And they are in the plane of lamina which are intersecting each other at point O. Let OZ is also the axis which is perpendicular to this plane lamina and it is passing through point O. Let Ix, Iy, Iz be the moment of inertia of lamina about OX, OY and OZ axis respectively. Now consider over here a small element at this point P. We have taken a small element at this point P, which is at a distance r from the axis which is passing through point O, but which is perpendicular to the plane, that is about Z axis. Also, the join OP and draw a perpendicular PN and PL on X and Y axis. We have drawn a perpendicular PN as well as PL. PN is nothing but Y, PL is nothing but X. So OL is equals to PN is equals to Y and OP is equals to R. Now we know that Iz is integration OP square dm because this is the perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation, R square dm. So it is R square dm. Integration Ix about Z x axis, if you will find that the perpendicular distance is Y. So it is Pn square dm. So for Ix here it is integration Y square dm. About y-axis, if you will find that the perpendicular distance is nothing but x. So Iy is nothing but integration PL square dm and that is nothing but integration x square dm. So from triangle OPL, you will find that you can consider any triangle, okay? You will get the same equation. So we have to apply the Pythagoras theorem over here. So r square is x square plus y square. Again multiply by dm and taking integration, you will get integration r square dm is equal to integration x square plus y square dm. Taking integration separately, you will get Iz is equal to Iy plus Ix. So you can say Iz is equals to Ix plus Iy. Now the next is we have to derive an expression for what? Angular momentum of rotating rigid body. For that we have to consider the rigid body. It consists of n number of particles. The masses of that n particle is nothing but m1, m2 up to so on mn. And the perpendicular distances are nothing but r1, r2, r3 up to so on rn from the axis of rotation, which is passing through point O. And it is perpendicular to its plane. Now we will consider that omega is the constant angular velocity. That means this rigid body, it is rotating about an axis which is passing through point O with constant angular velocity omega. So as this rigid body rotates, every particle of body it performs circular motion around the axis of rotation. So as every body it performs circular motion, we say that every body it is having linear velocity. So the v1 is the linear velocity of first particle whose mass is m1. So v1 is r1 omega. We have the formula that v is equal to r omega. So for first particle we say that it is v1 r1 omega. Here omega is constant angular velocity. So it is instead of omega 1 it is omega. The magnitude of linear momentum. Momentum it is denoted, a linear momentum it is denoted by p. And we know that p is equal to mv. So for first particle it is P1 equal to M1 V1. Substitute the value of V1 over here. You will get P1 is M1 R1 omega. So the angular momentum of first particle, that is L1, that is P1 R1. R cross P, that is angular momentum. And in here we have taken magnitude, so it is PR. So it is equals to M1 R1 omega into R1. So it is M1 R1 square omega. This is for first particle. Now there will be n number of particles. So for second particle, the angular momentum is what? M2 R2 square omega. For third particle, it is m3 r3 square omega. Up to so on. For nth particle, it is ln equal to mn rn square omega. So we have to find total angular momentum, that is L equals to L1 plus L2 plus L3 plus and so on Ln. Substitute all the values of L1, L2, L3 up to so on Ln. You will get that it is nothing but what? m1 r1 square omega plus m2 r2 square omega plus mn rn square omega. Here you will find that omega is constant. So we can take that term inside the bracket. So L must be equal to what? m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus and so on mn rn square. Outside the bracket there will be constant omega. So we know that m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus mn rn square can be written as what? Summation mi ri square. And that summation is nothing but what? Moment of inertia. So we say that L is must be equal to I omega. In vector form, this can be written as vector L equals to vector I into vector omega. The direction of this angular momentum, it is along the axis of rotation. SI unit of this angular momentum is kg meter square per second. And the dimension of this is L2 m1 t raised to minus 1. The second next topic, that is expression for torque which is acting on rotating rigid body. Here also we have taken a rigid body which is made up of n number of particles, and the masses of that n number of particles will be m1, m2, m3 up to so on mn, which are at perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation, that is r1, r2, r3 up to so on rn. And the axis of rotation, it is passing through point O. So let omega be the constant angular velocity. Now as this rigid body it rotates, every particle of that rigid body it performs circular motion. So we know that as the particle they rotate in a circular path, the radius of r1 of that circle in which that particle it revolves, suppose r1 will be the radius of circle in which the particle of mass m1 it revolves with linear acceleration a1. So we have derived the formula for acceleration, that is a1 equals a is equal to r alpha. So a1 must be equal to r1 alpha. Here alpha, that is constant linear acceleration. Similarly, linear acceleration for the particle whose mass is m2, that is a2 equals to r2 alpha, a3 r3 alpha up to so on an equal to rn alpha. So according to Newton's second law of motion, F is equals to ma. Substitute the value of a, that is m1 r1 alpha, m2 r2 alpha, and for nth particle it is mn rn alpha. Now by definition of torque, we know that torque is equal to r cross f, that is in magnitude we say that it is rf sin theta. So now if theta equals to 90 degrees, sin 90 is what? 1. So in that case we say that tau is equals to rf. For particle of mass m1, the torque tau 1 is given by tau 1 is equals to r1 f1. So that is equals to r1. Substitute the value of f1. You will get tau 1 is nothing but m1 r1 square alpha. Similarly, tau 2 is equal to m2 r2 square alpha. Tau 3 m3 r3 square alpha. And for the nth particle, it is tau n equals to mn rn square alpha. So the total torque acting on rigid body is nothing but sum of all the torque. So you will get tau is equal to m1 r1 square alpha plus m2 r2 square alpha plus and so on mn rn square alpha. Now take the common term outside the bracket. You will get tau equals to m1 r1 square plus m2 r2 square plus m3 r3 square plus and so on mn rn square. Outside the bracket there will be alpha. Now this whole bracket can be written as what? Summation mi ri square into alpha. And this summation mi ri square alpha, mi ri square is nothing but moment of inertia. So tau is equals to what? I alpha. In vector form, that tau it can be written as what? Tau is equals to I alpha. So the SI unit of torque is nothing but Newton meter, and the dimensions are nothing but L2 m1 t raised to minus 2. Now torque is a vector quantity, and the direction of that torque vector, it depends on the direction of what? Force on the axis I have given here example that in which direction you are applying force. According to that, you will come to know what is the direction of torque. R cross F in this direction. So according to that, if you find your right hand, if you apply, then you will get that R cross F, right hand rule. According to right hand rule, your curl fingers will give the direction of your R cross F, and this thumb will point in the direction of what? Torque. Here there will be some examples of torque. Torque is nothing but moment of couple, that is moment of force. Two equal and opposite forces are there. And there will be some examples I have shown in which you have to apply two equal and opposite forces, right? So there must be, you have to apply what? Torque. The next topic is conservation of angular momentum. So what is conservation of angular? Conservation means what? It remain constant. So the angular momentum of rotating bodies remain constant if, what is the condition? The resultant external torque which is acting on that body, it must be 0. Here, so here we will consider that the particle is rotating about an axis with torque 2 and P be the linear momentum. Here we have shown mv. mv is the linear momentum, that is P. So by definition, we know that L is equal to R cross P. Differentiating with respect to time, we get dl by dt equal to d by dt of R cross P. So dl by dt equal to R cross dp by dt plus P cross dr by dt. But we know that dr by dt, distance upon time, is velocity. dp by dt, pressure upon time, force. That is what? dp, m into v, right? So m dv by dt you will get. So dv by dt is what? Acceleration. So ma equals to what? F, force, according to Newton's second law. And p is nothing but mv. So this equation can be written as now r cross f plus m into v cross v. Here now we know that we have seen the characteristic of vector product, that vector product of vector with itself is always equal to 0. So this term equal to 0. So dl by dt is r cross f. So but r cross f is nothing but torque. So we say that dl by dt is equals to tau. Now if the resultant external torque acting on the particle is 0, then we say that dl by dt must be equal to 0. And we say that L is constant. So the angular momentum of system is always remain constant, or we can say conserved. Here I have shown example of conservation of angular momentum. You will come to from this example you will come to know that how the angular momentum remain conserved. See, here I have shown the example of ballet dancer. In this two figure, you will find that in first figure, that ballet dancer, the arms of that ballet dancer, they are away from the axis of rotation, about this axis, right? And in second figure, you will find that the arms, they are close to the axis of rotation. So what is the difference in these two cases? Here the moment of inertia is more because the arms are away from the axis of rotation. So this perpendicular distance will increase, so moment of inertia will increase. In this case, the arms, they are close to the body, that is close to the axis of rotation, so moment of inertia decreases, right? Because the perpendicular distance will decrease. So in these two cases, here the moment of inertia is more, but here the moment of inertia is less. Now what happens? In reverse direction, if you see, as the moment of inertia increases, but the angular velocity decreases, speed of that dancer decreases. But in this case, when the moment of inertia is less, the speed of this dancer will increase. That is omega, angular velocity increases. So here you will find that suppose I1 and omega 1 be the moment of inertia and the angular velocity of the ballet dancer when his her arms are close to the body, that is close to the axis of rotation, and I2 and omega 2 be the moment of inertia and angular velocity of that ballet dancer when her arms are away from the body, or you can say away from the axis of rotation. So here you will find that as one quantity is increases, another one will be decreases. I1 increases, over here it is I1 omega 1. Okay. So here I1 decreases, but omega 1 increases. Here I2 increases but omega 2 decreases. So in this way we say that the angular momentum it gets conserved or it remain constant, that is L1 must be equal to L2. So that is I1 omega 1 equals to I2 omega 2. So as I1 is less than I2, we say that omega 1 must be greater than omega 2. Okay. The last topic of this chapter is nothing but total kinetic energy, that is rolling motion of a body. Here we have to find total kinetic energy. How it is? See over here, you will find that this body it rolls down from this inclined plane, right? Initially the body it is at rest, so the initial velocity will be 0, right? So when that body it rolls down, you will find that there is a single point which moves in a straight line, that is center. The center of this body it moves in a straight line path. That means it is having translational kinetic energy. But the another particles which are revolving around the center, they are moving in a circular path, or you can say rotational motion. So they are having rotational kinetic energy. So that's why there will be a two types of kinetic energy in that body. First, it is translational energy due to the center of that body, which is having center of that body, and the rotational kinetic energy, which is having the particles which are revolving around the center of that body. So we have already derived an expression for translational kinetic energy. We know that it is half mv square. And rotational kinetic energy also we have derived expression in previous lecture, that is half I omega square. Substitute both the values, you will get E is nothing but half mv square plus half I omega square. Now here I is nothing but moment of inertia. In terms of radius of gyration, that moment of inertia can be written as what? Mk square. Because we know that radius of gyration k is nothing but root I upon m. So k square must be equal to I upon m. So I must be mk square. Okay. Now we have replaced this v. V is equal to r omega. So we have replaced that v by r square omega square here. Okay. Now here the common terms can be taken outside. So half m omega square is the common. Inside the bracket there will be r square plus k square. Okay. Now again replace this omega by v upon r. So you will get that half mv square. Inside the bracket there will be r square plus k square upon r square. Now separate this denominator. You will get E is equals to half mv square in bracket 1 plus k square upon r square. And this is what total kinetic energy of a rotating rigid body. Okay. Now if we say that this body or this object, consider that rigid body whose mass is capital M and radius r, it is rolling down on an inclined plane with an angle of inclination theta from height h. Okay. Now this body it starts from rest and it rolls down, so it loses its gravitational potential energy. And this gravitational potential energy it gets converted into what? Kinetic energy. So as the object starts rolling down, its gravitational potential energy is converted into kinetic energy of the rolling body. Starting from rest, let v be the speed of center of mass as the object comes down through the vertical distance h. So we have already derived expression, that is total kinetic energy half mv square plus half I omega square. That is nothing but half mv square inside the bracket 1 plus k square upon r square. Now we know that this potential energy gets converted into kinetic energy. So potential energy mgh is equal to what? Kinetic energy, that is half mv square in bracket 1 plus k square upon r square. Simplifying this term, you will get v must be equal to root 2gh upon 1 plus k square upon r square. Now the linear distance which is travelled by that plane is nothing but s is equal to h upon sine theta from figure. From this figure you will come to know that sine theta is equal to h upon s. So h is equal to s into sine theta. So during this distance, the linear velocity has increased from 0 to v. Now if a is the linear acceleration along the plane, we say that according to second kinematical equation, v square is equal to u square plus 2as. So we can substitute the value, that is 2a into s is equal to v square. V already we know, and u must be 0. So by simplifying this term, you will get acceleration in g sine theta upon 1 plus k square upon r square. For pure sliding without friction, the acceleration is nothing but g sine theta. And the final velocity is nothing but root 2gh. So thus during pure rolling, the factor 1 plus k square upon r square is effective for both the expressions. Now what is the remark? See, for rolling object, if the expression for moment of inertia of the form n into mr square, the numerical factor this n, it gives the value of k square upon r square for that object. Means that numerical value will change according to the nature of your object. For example, there is a uniform solid sphere. Then according to that, moment of inertia is 2 by 5 mr square. That is equal to mk square. So therefore a k square upon r square is nothing but 2 by 5. Similarly, k square upon r square is equal to 1 for rolling or hollow ring or hollow cylinder. It is equals to half for uniform disc or solid cylinder. It is equals to 2 by 3 for thin walled hollow sphere. So when rod rolls, it is actually cylinder, and that is rolling. So it is similar to your cylinder. While rolling, the ratio translational kinetic energy, therefore rotational kinetic energy and total kinetic energy. Translational is to rotational is to total kinetic energy is nothing but 1 is to k square upon r square is to 1 plus k square upon r square. For example, for hollow sphere, the k square upon r square is 2 by 3. Thus, for rolling hollow sphere, the expression it becomes 1 is to 2 by 3 is to 1 plus 2 by 3. That is 3 is to 2 is to 5. Now here there is some quantities between translational. Analogous is given, similarity is given between translational and rotational motion. In case of translational motion, linear displacement denoted by s. In case of rotational motion, we have to consider angular displacement, that is theta. In translational motion, that is linear velocity ds upon dt, and in rotational there is angular velocity, that is omega d theta by dt. In linear translation motion, linear acceleration, that is a dv by dt, rate of change of linear velocity. Whereas in rotational motion, angular acceleration, alpha is nothing but rate of change of angular velocity. The inertia or mass is nothing but m in translation motion. In case of rotational motion, inertia is nothing but moment of inertia, that is I. In case of translation motion, linear momentum p is nothing but mv. In case of rotation motion, angular momentum L is equals to I omega. In case of translation motion, force is nothing but dp by dt, whereas in rotational motion, torque is nothing but dl by dt. In translation motion, work is nothing but force into displacement. In rotation motion, work is nothing but torque into angular displacement. In case of translation motion, power is work upon time, that is F into V, velocity. Whereas in rotation motion, power is work upon time, that is torque into angular velocity. Now here is some expressions for moment of inertia of some symmetrical object. For thin ring, we have already derived an expression for moment of inertia, it is mr square. Or you can say for hollow cylinder. For thin ring, it is half mr square, but without diameter. Means if the axis of rotation it is passing through diameter, then in that case moment of inertia it becomes half mr square. And here if the moment axis of rotation it is passing through center. In case of thick walled hollow cylinder, if the axis of rotation is passing through center, the moment of inertia is half m in bracket r2 square plus r1 square. For uniform disc or solid cylinder about an axis passing through center, moment of inertia is half mr square. For uniform disc, the moment about an axis passing through diameter, the moment of inertia is 1 by 4 mr square. For thin walled hollow sphere, the moment of inertia about an axis passing through center is nothing but 2 by 3 mr square. For solid sphere, the moment of inertia about an axis passing through center is 2 by 5 mr square. For uniform symmetric spherical shell, The moment of inertia about an axis passing through center is nothing but 2 by 5 m into bracket r2 raised to 5 minus r1 raised to 5 upon r2 raised to cube minus r1 raised to cube. For thin uniform rod, the moment of inertia about an axis which is perpendicular to length is 1 by 12 ml square. For thin uniform rod, the moment of inertia about an axis which is perpendicular to the length about one end, 1 by 3 mr square. For the moment of inertia uniform plate, the moment of inertia about an axis passing through center is 1 by 12 m in bracket L square plus B square. For uniform solid ring or ring circular cone, the moment of inertia about an axis passing through center is nothing but 3 by 10 mr square. For the uniform hollow right circular cone, the moment of inertia about an axis passing through center is half mr square. Now here there will be some questions given to you. You have to solve this. This is your next assignment, or you can say questions. Thank you. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. And we will, in next lecture, we are going to start our second chapter, that is nothing but mechanical properties of fluids, which will be conducted by Amol Kumar sir. Thank you.